Kid Cudi's Insano was released on January 12th, 2024, with his last two projects being the excellent third installment of the Man on the Moon trilogy and the creative soundtrack/album Intergalactic, which was also tied to an animated movie of the same name. I was excited to see which direction Kid Cudi would go in next, especially since Cudi briefly retired from music following the release of Intergalactic. So with Insano comes a fresh start for Kid Cudi, as he's seemingly been reinvigorated with his passion for music, dropping both this project and Insano Nitro Mega in back-to-back months. Cudi seems to be loving life at the moment, and Insano in many ways acts as a celebration of finding happiness and success. And subsequently, the tone of this project is very different to a lot of Cudi's more introspective, emotional, and at times dark records. Here we have boppy summer hits like Porsche Topless, club tracks like At the Party, and uplifting anthems like Blue Sky. Cudi has never sounded so upbeat and positive in his music. But with this newfound happiness and positive direction, it comes at the cost of some of the more core characteristics which made Cudi's music so powerful to begin with. A lot of the thoughtful introspection and relatable struggles have been replaced with superficiality, as Cudi flexes his success and all the benefits that fame provides him. Even from a creativity standpoint, Insano at times sounds like Cudi's impersonation of a Travis Scott record, rather than an evolution of the trap beats he dabbled with in his previous two records. Insano features 21 tracks coming in at just over an hour in length. A lot of the tracks are quite short, which is somewhat unique for Cudi, with only a handful of tracks exceeding the 4-minute mark. As such, the album does a good job of keeping things moving along, but it does come at the cost of not having as much to latch onto in the listening experience. Often I Have These Dreams is a solid album opener, although I could do away with the bloated DJ drama intro, which kicks off the record. While there's nothing crazy going on with the bars, Cudi brings a lot of energy with his verse. What follows is a mediocre 3-track run, until things pick up again with the catchy Wow featuring A$AP Rocky. I wish there were more cuts like this, which balance the upbeat tone and superficial lyrics with a touch of classic Cudi, as evident in his second verse when he discusses dealing with mental health struggles. Electro Wave Baby is another highlight, sampling All That She Wants by Ace of Base, and blending this upbeat whistling melody with some smooth vocals. It's simple and has a catchy laid-back vibe that adds a lot to the album. However, the string of tracks in the midsection of Insano are what really brings it down for me. Tracks 7 through 13 are filled with some of Cudi's worst cuts since Speeding Bullet to Heaven. I'm talking Keep Bouncin', A Tale of a Night, Mr. Cooler, and Too Damn High. Everything from the forgettable production, weak performances, and terrible hooks makes this section of the record a real low point. Thankfully, the track Tortured picks things up again, sounding very much like a throwback to old Cudi in many ways. Here Cudi discusses some of the mental health issues he has faced and will continue to face. It's a very real moment on the album, with some great lyrics highlighting how it's often difficult to communicate the struggles you're facing, and how mental health struggles can be combated, but never completely go away. The track X and Cud continues this mental health topic, with Cudi delivering 2 solid verses which highlight his struggles and overcoming them. I wish more of the record followed this theme of conquering past struggles, as when Cudi touches on this with tracks like these, it's when Insano shines best. The brightest shining light on the record, though, comes from the penultimate track, Blue Sky, where Cudi executes this uplifting and positive sound perhaps better than he's ever done before. Everything about this track hits, from the simple yet excellent lyrics, the uplifting hums throughout the verses, the explosion before the euphoric chorus, hell, even the ad-libs work on the track. I think Blue Sky is Cudi firing on all cylinders, and proof that he doesn't need to stick to these serious dark tracks to make good music. What is puzzling though, is that Blue Sky acts as the perfect album closer, yet the track Hit the Streaks in My Nikes is tacked on at the end. It isn't a terrible track by any means, but it's completely unnecessary and ends the project on a far less impressive note. While production across the board is quite diverse, there's definitely a focus on rage-like trap beats that Travis Scott is well known for. And while this sound isn't new for Kid Cudi either, a lot of the beats feel quite basic, especially when compared to the trap production on Man on the Moon 3. Tracks like Keep Bouncin', Get Off Me, Mr. Cooler feature such rudimentary trap beats that are void of any real creativity. In fact, this record shines best when it deviates from these trap beats, with tracks like Funky Wizard Smoke, Electro Wave Baby, and Blue Sky having some of my favorite production off of the record. Cudi incorporates his voice heavily into the mix on a majority of the tracks here, with the use of his signature hums, and while some may argue that it's overused to the point of becoming tiresome, I couldn't disagree more, and I think it's a real highlight of the album for me. While the production is very trap focused, which personally I'm not a big fan of, it does maintain a decent bass level quality, so much so that the beats are often the only saving grace of some of the weaker tracks here. I like the variety, and I think the production is arguably one of the strongest aspects of Insano. Cudi's new direction isn't just noticeable sonically, but also through his performance. Insano features more rapping in a project since IndieCud, and perhaps even surpasses that. Cudi takes the trap style he's been dabbling in with his most recent projects and doubles down on it, and the results are rather disappointing. While Cudi is a very versatile artist, his rapping has always been hit or miss for me throughout his career, and I think the trap style raps just don't suit him very well. The ad-libs are excessive, bordering on aggravating at times, and are rarely used to good effect. And while Cudi delivers a nice mix of cadences and flows, it's often when he's sticking to a more traditional Cudi sound when he delivers his best performances. Cudi's hooks in this project are also rather mediocre when compared to his usual very high standard. Tracks like Keep Bouncin', A Tale of a Night, and Too Damn High are some of the worst hooks in Cudi's career, and it just doesn't suit his strengths at all. And while there are some excellent choruses, the consistency across the 21 tracks just isn't up to par with what you would expect from a Kid Cudi record. I've always loved Kid Cudi for his melodic and catchy hooks, but they are just too few and far between on Insano, and it's a real letdown on the project for myself. Lyrically, Insano is a bit of a mess too. While lyrics have never been the driving appeal of Cudi's music, this is definitely one of the weakest showings on this front in years. Cudi drives this message of being in a better place through superficial lyrics to an extent that he hasn't really come close to in his career prior. And while there's nothing wrong with Kid Cudi flaunting his ego as an artist and sharing some of the fruits that he's acquired from said labors, it feels so derived from who Cudi is as an artist and why fans gravitate towards him in the first place. There are bars where Cudi flexes his wealth, his ability to get women, and how he's in a place where the haters can't touch him, and he doesn't care what they have to say. And while it's great to hear Cudi shift gears musically, some of these types of bars are so excessive that they come across as disingenuous. Cudi has certainly portrayed self-confidence way more effectively on other records, and a lot of the lyrics on show in Insano simply aren't up to par. The features on Insano are also a bit of a mixed bag. Starting off with the positives, I think Travis Scott is a standout with his features on At the Party and Get Off Me. I'm not a big Travis Scott fan, and I don't really like these tracks either, but I will admit that his feature is the best part. A$AP Rocky delivers a fun and charismatic verse on the track Wow, which works quite nicely, and Young Thug certainly isn't bad on Rager Boys. Plus we have the XXXTentacion feature/sample on the track X and Cud. And while this track hasn't been very well received, I'm personally a pretty big fan of Cudi's use of the sample Orlando by X, and I think it ticks all of the boxes of what I'd want an X and Cud collaboration to be. On the flip side though, we have a very underwhelming Lil Wayne feature, a mediocre Pharrell hook, and a weak verse by Lil Yachty. But all of this is capped off with the questionable inclusion of DJ Drama on the record, acting as this part narrator, part hype man, often blowing in at the beginning and ends of tracks, telling the audience to prepare themselves for some crazy shit, only to be met with something very mid. His inclusion is just totally unnecessary and comes across as a little cringe. With all of that being said, my final verdict for Kid Cudi's Insano is a 50 out of 100. Cudi's new direction with Insano is inconsistent, uninspired, and shallow. While there are some glimpses of Cudi nailing this uplifting vibe with tracks like Electro Wave Baby and Blue Sky, there are just too many instances where Cudi sounds disingenuous. A lot of what makes Cudi great as an artist is missing here, and while I support the ideas behind this new positive direction with his music, the execution comes across as an impersonation rather than an evolution. It feels like Cudi is trying to tap into a new audience and appeal to a younger group of listeners with this new style, and looking at some of the most popular tracks from Insano, maybe he's right to do so. But in the process, he's neglected a lot of the characteristics that make him so unique and beloved in the first place. Cudi cannot compete with other mainstream artists with this style, as they simply just do it better. But there are very few artists that can deliver more relatable music than Cudi when he's sticking to his wheelhouse, and for me, the lack of substance on Insano was bitterly disappointing. Anyway, that's my review of Insano. What did you think of the album? Do you agree or disagree with my take? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. This has been For the Record.